how do we get tenures? And I guess what's important in that is the bottom line, which is only 0.7% of the Cape is freehold. Elsewhere in Australia, you would expect them to be done on freehold, that people would look at what the zoning or the planning regulations are under the local government and would use that process to get approval to develop something. We don't have the same opportunities because of the unique tenure arrangements. I think there's an opportunity here, for at least on the Cape, for government to reconsider that policy. That's only at policy level. So it'll be pretty simple for DERM to say, right, our new policy is you can earn any amount you like for conservation. That to me seems a really simple way of doing it. And you can earn a little bit more for tourism if the income from that is having a direct benefit to land stewardship.
You say there's no intention to have a blanket listing over the Cape for World Heritage. The same thing was said about wild rivers. They were going to be looking at the areas of wild river qualification using a yardstick that said that it was essentially still in its pristine form. And so you had bits starting at the coast and working inwards, and before we knew it, we had coast-to-coast wild rivers. You've got the Archer Declaration, the Wenlock Declaration goes all the way across to the other side of the coast. You've got another 10 currently mooted on the drawing board. You've got the southwest corner of Queensland, 3 big areas there. You have this encroachment and continual enlargement of these areas without consultation. When the first lot of wild rivers went with the traditional owners and all that down on the coast, they agreed with it. And everybody actually agrees with the intent of wild rivers, yet there's been no recognition within the Wild Rivers legislation, 2005 Act, that sort of recognised areas that had already been developed or had human disturbance or anything like that. Nobody, whether it's in mining or cattle or forestry, has any problem with looking after areas of environmental and ecological significance that need to be looked after. But when you start enlarging the boundaries, and at the moment you're already admitting we don't have a boundary, so that gives you the ability to sort of constantly shift these boundaries. And we see the arbitrary nature of how you draw lines with these land grabs in the form of nature refuges or national parks and then wild rivers.
Is why if you live north of Cairns, you don't understand the environment. And this is what people are throwing at us all the time. We do not understand the environment. We know more about the environment of the Cape York Peninsula than any of you fellows will ever even dream of.
That's what we're talking to you.
You're saying it's unique and pristine. It's been like that for a long time. People have been looking after it. So you say you want to protect it. Protect it from what?
I didn't use the words unique or pristine. I think the word pristine in particular is overused. I don't think it's an accurate description of the country, clearly.
But what's the rush? What's the value or the system in Cape York that needs this absolutely insane hurry to protect? There's no logging going on. I'm not aware of any mining that's influencing the environment. Cattle grazing's been here for 100 years and Indigenous people have been here for who knows how long. So what's the rush about? Why don't you just back off and give us a bit of time to think this through? Just remember that once World Heritage is put in place, it cannot be easily undone. It's part of an international convention. If you've got a strip of World Heritage down the coast and you've got a completely viable environmental occupation going on that side, like a mine or some industry, you can't transport your product across it to the ocean. Now, how do we undo that? How do we know that you've got it right? And I mean, he's right. What really needs to be protected up here? We've got some pockets of very, very valuable country. We can tie that up in a national park. What is this World Heritage listing really about?
So having a vote here today, what would you be voting on? I mean,
do we want World Heritage or not?
But you don't even know what World Heritage would look like,
well,
where it would be, for what. Well, that's part of the process we're under. We're here today to talk to people, to share information.
You mentioned a little bit earlier that the process wasn't being rushed. When we were first engaged before Christmas, we had a 2014 deadline, and that was shifted to a 2013 deadline to an August this year. Do we know where that process isn't being rushed? And I suppose thirdly, what are the economic development opportunities within a World Heritage listed area?
You talk about consent. What about the people who do not consent? Where do they fit into the picture? You keep saying, like, it could be 4 of the Indigenous people here consent to it, but 104 out there don't. So who do you listen to? Now, Brian, have you ever brought a home?
Oh, sure.
Yeah. Did you go and look at it and see if it had white ants or anything in it?
No,
before you brought it?
I hired someone else to do that.
That's right. But what we're getting here in Cape York is trying to sell a thing that we don't know whether it's got white ants in it, because we don't know the boundaries, we don't know the rules, we don't know anything about them. Wild Rivers had taken about 13 plus legislations and acts, and World Heritage on top of that. Surely that is an overkill of environmental issues. Drop one, do something.
What consultation will there be of a landholder, a pastoralist or another landholder, if their land is proposed to be in World Heritage? So what consultation will there be with them? And will you seek their consent or will you just consult with them?
We would consult with them and try and arrive at an agreed approach.
Now, we've got 11 Indigenous shires on the Cape and ourselves, Cook Shire Council. Every one of those mayors, I had a Rocky meeting down in Cairns last week, every one of those mayors was dead against World Heritage listing. So you've got local government at the base level against World Heritage listing. Right, so that's the challenge you've got in front of you. It's not just scattered pastoralists, it's the democratically elected representatives of each one of those individual communities.
What we have done since then is send out the survey to about 400 people. We had 185 responses.
But the community identified bureaucracy, confusion, misrepresentation, manipulation, lack of cooperation, control, uncertainty, interference, information hoarding. Am I making a point that people understand? Yeah.
Sounds a bit like this morning.
Yeah. Empire building, short-term focus. There was 128 community members responded, and that was their top 10 priorities.